Far below the rolling waves, where the sunlight danced only faintly through the water, the reef slumbered in soft motion. Coral fans waved lazily. Anemones curled in upon themselves like sleepy flowers. The sea, in its deep places, whispered as it always had, gentle and endless. But tonight, that whisper became something else. In the quietest corner of the reef, where the sand was smooth and the water hummed in a different rhythm, a sound passed through, not loud, not sharp, just meaningful. She is waking. The words weren't spoken. They were felt, Joe, like a current brushing your fins, like the chill before a storm. In her tiny shell bed, a young seahorse stirred. Her name was Coral. She was smaller than a clam's smile and softer than sea foam. Her mane shimmered white, and her tail curled tighter than a snail shell when she was curious, which she often was. Coral blinked her round eyes and lifted her head. She felt the whisper ripple through the water, brushing past her like a secret on the move. She is waking. She swam out of her home and peered around. Everything looked normal. The reef drifted in its usual drowsy sway. A pair of sleepy clownfish bobbed by, unaware. But Coral had heard something, felt something, and when she did, she sounded no more. She glided gently upward, past a curtain of kelp, through a drift of glittering plankton. The deeper she went, the quieter the sea became. Not the silence of nothing, the silence of listening. Then she heard it again. She is waking. It was softer now, closer. Coral turned in the water, searching. Was someone speaking? Was it the reef? The waves? No. It was the ocean itself. A glowing lantern fish blinked near her. "You heard it too?" he asked. Coral nodded. "What does it mean?" The lantern fish hovered uncertainty. Old stories say the sea once had a guardian, a creature that watched over everything. She sleeps in the deep, waiting. Waiting for what? Coral asked. The fish's light dimmed. For the sea to need her again. Coral felt her tiny heart flutter. Why now? What has changed? She swam higher until she reached the edge of the reef, the place where the water turned colder, darker. Beyond lay the deep trench. No one swam there, but the whisper came again. She is waking. Coral hovered there, small against the vast dark. Then she whispered back, "I hear you." The water quivered. Far below, something turned in its sleep, and Coral, the littlest seahorse in the reef, knew that something ancient was rising. Something big, something important, and somehow it had started with her. The reef awoke slowly after the whisper. Crabs resumed their tapping. Fish flicked back into their schools. But Coral could still feel it, a humming in her fins, like the tide had something to say and she was the only one who could hear it. Coral swam in circles above her shell home, tail coiling and uncoiling. She was young, even by seahorse standards, small enough to hide behind a single kelp leaf, but brave enough to have swum to the edge of the trench. That whisper still echoed in her thoughts. She is waking. But who was she? What was waking? And why had it spoken to her? Coral needed answers. She zipped through the reef, weaving past coral branches and gliding through swirls of tiny jellyfish. Her first stop was the Coral School Cave, where the elder sea creatures told stories to the young ones between waves. Elder urchin, an old sea urchin with a shell covered in tiny barnacle scars, sat in the center of a listening circle, retelling the story of the drifting islands. "Elder," Coral interrupted, bobbing in front of him, "have you ever heard the ocean whisper?" The circle grew quiet. Elder urchin tilted his head. "The ocean always whispers, little one, but it only speaks when it wants to be heard. This whisper said, 'She is waking.'" A hush deeper than sea silence fell over the crowd. Even the baby eels stopped wriggling. Elder urchin blinked slowly. "I've heard that phrase once, long, long ago, when I was still a drifting speck. They say it's about the guardian, the one who sleeps in the trench of tides." Coral leaned in. "Is she dangerous?" "No," Elder urchin replied. "She is powerful, older than the reef, gentle as the deep, but she only wakes when the sea needs her." Coral's gills fluttered. What could make the sea need a guardian? "Go," said Elder urchin gently. "If the whisper chose you, it's because you're meant to listen." So Coral swam, her thoughts heavy as she slipped past the seagrass fields. She passed her favorite hiding shells, the glowing rocks near the eel caves, even the upside-down crab, who always sang in his sleep. She found herself floating once again at the reef's edge, where the colors of the world faded and the water turned navy blue. The trench loomed below, silent and deep. She hesitated, heart fluttering like plankton in a wave. But then she whispered back, as soft as sea foam, "I'm listening." And far below, something stirred. Next morning, the reef was unusually quiet. The fish swam in tighter schools. The crabs clicked less. Even the current moved cautiously, as if the ocean itself was holding its breath. Coral swam through it all, thoughts swirling like a whirlpool. The whisper still echoed in her fins. She hadn't told anyone about what she saw. Not the glowing trench, not the stirring shadow, not the heartbeat she felt without sound. But the ocean was changing. Suddenly, the sky above darkened. A shadow passed over the reef. The surface churned. A storm was coming. Within minutes, the world turned wild. Waves crashed above. Sunlight vanished. The water thrashed in all directions. Coral darted for cover, dodging a tumbling shell and gripping tightly to a waving strand of seaweed. She wasn't afraid of storms. She'd seen a few before. But this was different. This storm didn't feel natural. It felt angry. The reef was tossed and rattled. A young octopus tumbled past, curling into himself. A coral branch snapped in the current's fury. Sea creatures hid, clung, closed. And then, just as quickly as it came, the storm stilled. But the damage was done. Pieces of the reef had broken. A once bright coral bed now looked pale. The seaweed forests had thinned. And worst of all, the water tasted strange. Coral sniffed the current. There was something bitter in it, sharp, like something from the surface had spilled downward, something that didn't belong. She glided upward and saw a dark slick stretching far in the distance, a cloud in the water, thick and oily. She knew what it was: pollution. The older turtles spoke of it. The dolphins hated it. And the ocean whispered louder now. She is waking. The guardian wasn't just stirring. She was responding. Coral swam toward the old part of the reef where no light reached and the shells whispered legends. Her mind buzzed with questions. Why was the ocean sick? What could one little seahorse do? She needed wisdom. And there was only one place to find it: the Pearl Cavern. It wasn't on any reef map. Most didn't believe it existed. But Coral had overheard an ancient starfish once mention it, a place where the ocean stored its oldest memories. She followed clues: the current that pulled stronger, the shells that aligned in spirals, and the soft glow from behind a ridge. There, hidden beneath a stone archway draped in kelp, was the entrance. She squeezed through. Inside, the cavern shimmered. Glowing pearls lined the walls. Not just white, but pink, blue, and silver. They pulsed with warmth, with memory. As she swam deeper, one pearl glowed brighter. It floated gently toward her. Coral touched it. A vision bloomed. She saw the guardian, a vast glowing creature with flowing fins and eyes like underwater moons, rising from the trench of tides. Around her swirled memories of storms calmed, waters healed, oceans sung back to peace. The guardian wasn't just waking, she had been called. Coral pulled away, gasping. Her heart beat fast. She knew what she had to do. She had to find the guardian. Coral swam as fast as her fins could carry her, cutting through the sea like a dart. She didn't stop until she reached the driftwood pile, the home of old Mossback. Mossback was a sea turtle so ancient, barnacles told time by his shell. He rarely moved, barely blinked, and when he spoke, his words rolled like deep waves. Coral floated before him, breathless. "Mr. Mossback, I think the guardian is waking." His eyes opened slowly. "So, she heard?" he rumbled. "You know her?" "I swam beside her once, in my hatchling days. She is the soul of the ocean." Coral nodded. "She's stirring because the ocean is hurting." Mossback let out a slow breath. The sea forgets sometimes, and sometimes the sea needs reminding. Coral looked at him hopefully. "Do you know where she is?" He turned his gaze to the deep. "She sleeps in the trench of tides, but only those who carry the ocean's voice can reach her." "I heard the whisper," Coral said, "more than once." Mossback blinked. "Then the sea has chosen you." He slowly uncurled a fin and handed her something, a small, swirling shell, glowing faintly blue. "This is a tide shell. It will light your path." Coral clutched it gently. "Thank you." As she turned to leave, Mossback spoke one last time. "Be brave, little one. The ocean is vast, but so is your heart." Coral clutched the glowing tide shell as she swam into deeper, darker waters. The reef had faded behind her. Now there were only soft shadows, swirls of kelp and the soft glow from the shell in her fins. She followed the current as it pulled her toward the trench. But the deeper she swam, the heavier the water felt, like it was full of forgotten thoughts. Then, a sound, a low, long note, so deep it shook the water around her. Then another, and another, a song. Coral turned and saw a massive shape approaching, slow and graceful. A blue whale, ancient and wise, its eyes glowing with light that didn't belong to this world. The whale sang again. Coral didn't run. She listened. The whale circled her gently. Its song wasn't just music, it was memory. It showed her how the guardian had once calmed a great tidal wave, healed poisoned waters, and sung lost fish home. When the song ended, Coral whispered, "She's waking again." The whale blinked slowly and turned toward the trench. He sang one final note, a deep hum that lit the shell in Coral's fin brighter than ever, then disappeared into the dark. Coral turned to the trench. The path was open. The trench of tides was darker than night. It yawned beneath her, wide and endless. Coral had never seen anything so vast or so quiet. But the tide shell glowed with steady light, leading her downward. She passed statues of stone fish, ancient carvings on the walls, and bubbles that didn't rise. They floated sideways, as if time itself drifted differently here. Then she saw it, a shape, curled at the bottom, larger than any creature she had ever known. Wrapped in sea moss and glowing softly beneath the ribs of a sunken ship was the guardian. She looked like the sea itself, blue and silver, scaled like waves, her eyes closed, but her body rising and falling with every sleeping breath. Coral swam closer. "She is waking," Coral whispered. The guardian stirred. One glowing eye opened, gentle as moonlight. Coral felt a wave of emotion rush through her, not words, but feelings. Welcome, sadness, love, power. The guardian didn't speak aloud. She didn't need to. Coral placed the shell on the sea floor. "The ocean needs you," she said softly. "It's hurting." The guardian blinked slowly, and then the trench began to glow. The light rose from the trench like a heartbeat. It pulsed up through the ocean floor, through tunnels and caverns, through roots and shells and stone. In the reef far above, broken coral began to shimmer. Polluted waters cleared. Shells glowed. Tiny fish that had fled returned. The ocean was responding to the guardian's awakening. Coral hovered beside her, watching in awe. The guardian gently unfolded her wings, not feathered, but made of water and light. She moved upward, slow and powerful, like a tide that could not be stopped. As she rose, the ocean around her changed. It hummed, it breathed, it healed. Coral followed, watching as everything she loved began to bloom again, not just with color, but with life. The guardian's glow passed through the sea like morning sunlight after a storm, and the sea remembered how to sing. The guardian slowed near the reef, looking down at Coral. She blinked once, and in Coral's heart, she felt it. A question. Would she stay small and safe among the coral, or would she carry the guardian's voice when the ocean forgot again? Coral didn't hesitate. "Yes," she whispered. "I'll listen. I'll remind them. I'll protect." The guardian drifted close and touched her gently with a glowing fin. Coral glowed too, just a little. A shimmer along her mane, a shine in her tail, a light in her heart. She had been chosen, not to be powerful, but to be present. And that was enough. Time passed. The reef grew strong again. The waters cleared. Fish returned. Stories were sung. The guardian drifted back into the trench, her glow dimming, not because she was gone, but because the sea was calm. "She sleeps again," the waves whispered. But Coral swam proudly now. She still listened to the barnacles. She still sang with the dolphins. But now, when the water changed or darkened or grew afraid, she was the one who heard it first. She was the one who remembered. She was the guardian's voice. And beneath the waves, in the hush between the currents, the ocean breathed peacefully once more.